it's kind of hard to explain, but I can't understand how I could do it myself. I've always thought I was a nice person.
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're taking a deep dive into the chilling true story of Keith Hunter Jesperson, aka the Happy Face Killer, who serves as the inspiration behind the Paramount Plus crime series Happy Face.
This story is bigger than just you.
He wasn't always a monster, he became one. Before that, he was just my dad.
Like many serial killers throughout history, Keith Hunter Jesperson had a troubled childhood. The middle of 5 children, Jesperson was raised by a domineering father and a distant mother, and was treated as an outsider even within his own family.
Keith Jesperson grew up in British Columbia, Canada, the middle child of 5. He'd always loved camping and the outdoors.
From an early age, he was significantly larger than his peers, a trait that made him a constant target for ridicule. Other children taunted him, and his own brothers made things worse by giving him the cruel nickname Igor, which stuck throughout his childhood.
Describe him physically. I mean, he's a big man.
Yeah, he was 6'6" and about closer to 300 pounds.
This constant alienation left Jesperson isolated and shy, and would often lead to him misbehaving. Whenever he acted out, though, his father responded with severe punishments, including beating and humiliating him in front of others.
Coming out of the shadows and going public about the father who could be so loving, but sometimes lethal.
Before turning to human victims, Jesperson began his violent experiments with animals. From a young age, he captured, tortured, and killed several animals. Acts that both satisfied his urge for violence and reportedly earned his father's approval.
He grabbed them by the tail and hung them on the clothesline and wailing, screaming their little kitten screams.
Over time, this cruelty escalated, leading to 2 attempted murders during his childhood. The first involved his friend Martin, whom Jesperson physically attacked after he was punished for Martin's misdeeds. He later claimed he would have killed Martin if his father hadn't intervened.
The way he just looked at me was, I don't care. This is so funny to watch you grimace and be tortured. He liked it.
The second incident occurred 1 year later, when Jesperson sought revenge against another boy who had nearly drowned him in a lake. Jesperson tried to drown the boy in a public pool, but was stopped by a lifeguard.
It is so gruesome what you're describing. I mean, there's a possibility that these people's family members might be listening to you describing this.
I'm sorry it happened. Wish it never happened. And can we move on?
Because he grew up an isolated kid, Jesperson struggled to form relationships with girls in school. However, shortly after high school, he began dating and eventually married Rose Huck. Together, they had 2 daughters, Melissa and Carrie, and 1 son, Jason.
At Christmas time, even if we didn't have the money, somehow he'd figured out how to get the money and bring back what the kids really wanted for Christmas.
Would you describe him as a good husband?
No, he was not a good husband.
Around this time, Jesperson started working as a truck driver, spending long periods away from home. His job provided ample opportunities to meet random women across the country without staying in one place for too long.
One time, as we're driving up the old scenic highway, my father said, I know how to kill someone and get away with it. So I thought maybe the detective magazines was something he's really into.
Eventually, Huck began receiving calls from various women at their family home, which raised suspicions of infidelity. After 14 years of marriage, she took their children and all their belongings, moved out while Jesperson was on the road, and began living with her parents.
And I said, who is this? And he goes, oh, I'm Keith's girlfriend. I said, well, I'm his wife. Click.
She had had enough, and after 14 years of marriage, the pair decided to separate.
In 1990, after his marriage collapsed, Jesperson spent even more time on his trucking job. During this period, he committed his first murder, killing Tanya Bennett, a woman he met at a bar near Portland, Oregon.
You meant to kill her.
Oh, yes, I did. I meant to kill her to cover up the assault.
You say it very matter-of-factly, with no remorse or hint of remorse.
It is matter of fact that that's what it is.
While the case was under investigation, another woman named Laverne Pavlinac falsely confessed to police that her boyfriend, John Sosnovsky, had killed Bennett and forced her to help. Pavlinac saw this confession as a way out of her violent relationship with Sosnovsky.
This woman tries to frame her abusive boyfriend, telling police he murdered Tanya Bennett, using details of the crime from newspaper reports.
However, both she and Sosnovsky were arrested for the crime and convicted in 1991. Sosnovsky received a life sentence and Pavlinac at least 10 years. Although she later admitted to fabricating the story, they remained behind bars for about 5 years before the truth finally emerged.
But a Marion County judge refused to release Pavlinac and Sosnovsky, saying there's no proof to show they didn't help Jesperson commit the murder.
Pavlinac's false confession meant the notoriety of the murder went to her and Sosnovsky, not the actual killer. Seeking recognition for himself, Jesperson made his own confession, not to the police, but on a truck stop bathroom wall, which he signed with a smiley face.
So back on the road, in a rest stop bathroom, he scribbles on the wall. January 21, 1990. Killed Tanya Bennett in Portland. 2 people got the blame, so I can kill again.
When this obscure location failed to bring him the attention he craved, he decided to go bigger. Jesperson sent detailed letters to media outlets and police departments, including the Oregonian newspaper, revealing information only the true killer would know.
Jesperson earned the nickname the Happy Face Killer in letters to Channel 2 News and other media outlets, claiming responsibility for 8 murders. The notes included happy face insignias.
These letters were also signed with a smiley face. While they didn't immediately clear Pavlinac and Sosnovsky, they caught the eye of Phil Stanford, a journalist at the Oregonian, who gave Jesperson the nickname the Happy Face Killer.
Phil Stanford from the Oregonian, actually, he's a freelance writer now, named that the Happy Face. All I did is sign a circle with 2 little eyes and a crescent smile.
Meanwhile, Jesperson kept hunting for victims as he crisscrossed the country in his truck. In April 1990, he attempted to kill Dawn Slagle at a parking lot in Mount Shasta, California, but she managed to escape after he sexually assaulted her.
He says, don't ever get in the car with somebody you don't know again, because it might be the last thing that you ever do.
Thankfully, he let Dawn out, and she ran straight to police.
His next known murder did not occur until 1992, when he killed 3 women, all of whom were sex workers. Jesperson's crimes stretched across several states, from his home state of Washington to Oregon, California, Wyoming, Nebraska, and all the way to Florida.
He's also a suspect in a January killing in Nebraska, an unsolved murder in Florida, the 1992 strangling of Lori Pentland in Salem, and he's at the center of a review in the 1990 murder of Tanya Bennett along the Crown Point Highway.
He claimed to have killed as many as 160 victims. However, only 8 of those murders have been confirmed, making him either a serial liar or an even deadlier predator than we know.
Jesperson went on to kill at least 7 women over the next 5 years, something that haunted Dawn for decades.
Jesperson's 8th and final murder occurred on March 10, 1995, when he killed his girlfriend, Julie Winningham. After her body was discovered, suspicion quickly fell on Jesperson.
But it wasn't until last March, when authorities found the body of 41-year-old Julie Winningham dumped along the Camas Highway, that investigators began linking the cases.
When questioned by police, he refused to talk, and without solid evidence, they had no choice but to let him go. Realizing the walls were closing in, Jesperson unsuccessfully attempted to take his own life twice before ultimately turning himself in.
His alleged murderer, Keith Jesperson, confessed to being the so-called Happy Face Killer. He now admits to killing 8 people during a murder spree across 5 western states since 1990.
But before doing so, he penned a letter to his brother, confessing to killing 8 people in 5 years. This letter was handed to authorities and led to several cold cases being reinvestigated. While in custody, Jesperson also confessed to murdering Tanya Bennett, resulting in the release of Laverne Pavlinac and John Sosnovsky.
He has become evidence that we intend to use.
Which means this confessed serial killer may have finally given prosecutors enough evidence to set 2 imprisoned people free.
Keith Jesperson wasn't just a depraved killer. He also played the role of a doting father to his 3 children, at least for a while. His daughter, Melissa Moore, recalled going on fun camping trips with him and eagerly awaiting his return from the long trucking trips.
First thing I would do is, when he got out of the car, I'd run up to him and go for his pockets for the change that he had left over from his day. I got to keep the change, and I would save it up to buy a little gum and things like that.
Unlike his own father, Jesperson never hit or spanked her, which only added to the illusion of a normal childhood. But beneath those rosy memories lay certain unsettling moments that only made sense years later when Moore finally learned her father's true nature.
What is it that you think you caught a glimpse of that day?
The sociopath, the part where he felt in control over me and that he enjoyed it. I got a sense that there was another side to him.
This includes acts of animal cruelty, which Jesperson seemed to enjoy a little too much. Even more disturbing, Moore later discovered from her grandfather that Jesperson had once considered killing her and her siblings.
He would have probably regretted revealing that. And maybe, yeah, I don't know. I often look back and just wonder. But I'm grateful that he didn't, because I believe he probably would have killed me if he did tell me.
Of Jesperson's 3 children, Melissa Moore is the only one who has publicly shared what it's like to have a serial killer for a father.
Logically, I know he is the father that raised me, and he is a serial killer, but to combine the two, it's just not possible for me.
Now serving 4 consecutive life sentences, Jesperson has only received 2 visits from Moore, one in 1995 and again in 2005, by which time she had a family of her own. Moore had already changed her name to distance herself from him, and their prison interactions only reinforced her decision to cut ties completely.
One of the first things he said to me is, "Missy, you need to change your last name." And that's when I knew he was guilty.
Since then, she has spoken about her experience on Dr. Phil, The Oprah Winfrey Show, and ABC's 2020. In 2008, Moore took it a step further with her book Shattered Silence, giving the world an even closer look at her haunting childhood.
What I felt that my book and the podcast Happy Face didn't really do is show the ripple effect of how these violent crimes impact not just a singular person, but generations.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Alongside her autobiography, Melissa Moore also launched the 2018 podcast Happy Face. It caught the attention of TV producers Robert and Michelle King, along with Jennifer Casisio, who adapted it into a series.
And he made it clear there were only 2 people here that he would talk to, myself and Melissa here. Why?
He's my father.
Although the story of the Happy Face Killer has been explored in various media, this marks the first adaptation with direct involvement from someone connected to the case, as Moore serves as a producer.
And we should say the Happy Face Killer is still in jail.
And Melissa is an executive producer as well.
Yeah.
Which has been so incredibly helpful to us in the making of the show, not just her story, but also her advocacy work.
Happy Face stars Anna Lee Ashford as Moore, who is forced to revisit the crimes of her father, played by Dennis Quaid, as she tries to figure out whether an innocent man is about to be executed for one of them. The 8-episode series offers a fresh perspective on the case, this time through the eyes of the killer's own daughter.
Oh, Dad, just tell us.
Did you hear yourself? You called me Dad.
What's he like? Be glad you never have to know.
Are you watching Happy Face? What do you think of the show so far? Let us know in the comments below.
You're just like your old man.
I'm not like you at all.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from MsMojo. And be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.